Sit! Hood, hood!
From L.A. to Orange County to the Inland Empire.
I was born like this, baby! We gotta protect this turf! We gotta go out and control this football game.
It's time to light up the night with Southern California's premier high school football show, High School Football America.
Jose, can you see the dungeon line?
SoCal.
West Coast Don!
Award-winning high school sports expert Jeff Fisher takes you inside Southern California's high school football huddles. With the top coaches, players, and inside information on the area's biggest games. Now from the AM 570 Fox Sports LA studios, here's your host, Jeff Fisher.
Good evening, Southern California high school football fans, and welcome to the second season. The playoffs are here. I am Jeff Fisher, founder and editor-in-chief of High School Football America and highschoolfootballamerica.com. We've got the usual crew. They were able to hang in here with us as we reopened Poly Pavilion, getting a little late start, but we've got plenty for you tonight. We've got the crew in the house here. Trish Hoffman running the show from the phones, Josh Gorecki on the scores, and Sam Zia getting us all potted up here on the board. Tonight's High School Football America SoCal show brought to you by Kellogg's Frosted Flakes. They appreciate you for tuning in and letting us share all of these great high school football stories with you each and every Friday night. And they want to remind you that, like football, Frosted Flakes is another passion that you can share with your kids. Dads, if you're reliving any of tonight's games with your kids around the breakfast table tomorrow, why not do it over a bowl of Frosted Flakes? The playoffs are here, 145 games. That's it. There's no more in Southern California tonight. And it's win or go home. And we'll be focusing on all the playoffs tonight. We'll have all the scores for you and a ton of reports. We can tell you this at the top. 3 number ones go down. And we'll have reports from 5 of the 8 PAC-5 games, the big division. Plus, we'll have reports from the Inland, Southern, and Western divisions. We'll also take a look at the City Section games. We'll have scores on the 6s as best we can with the late start, so don't hold me to that. They may be scores on the 8s for all I know at this point. And you can always go to highschoolfootballamerica.com to get the scores as we will post them throughout the night. Now, feel free to tweet us during the show at HSFB America. And we're going to take a little bit of a halftime break or maybe even later in the show to take a look at how arch rivals USC and UCLA are coming together to battle cancer. But time to dive right into the action, starting with a game that I thought was the most intriguing. Defending state champs Santa Margarita taking on El Toro. Very happy for both coaches this year. If you look at things for Harry Welch, it was a great year. They were ranked number 1 in many of the polls, including High School Football America's national poll in America. Johnny Stanton goes down with the injured knee, but darn it, the Eagles sucked it up and did a great job down the stretch. And then on the other side for El Toro, you got Rob Frith, led by quarterback Connor Manning. Very impressive first year in the South Coast League, a 9-1 overall record. And boy, these two had to go head-to-head, and this is why the Pac-5 is so tough. And let's get right into the action tonight and give you the score, 38-13, Santa Margarita. They live to play another day, and Les Lukacs was at the game tonight at Trabuco Hills, and he joins us now with a game wrap-up. What do you have for us, Les?
Hey, Jeff, how's it going? It's good. Better late than ever tonight.
Exactly.
We were sitting up in the box and beforehand, and we were talking. El Toro just didn't look like El Toro during the pregame warm-ups, and it certainly played out on the field. Ryan Wolpen got the Santa Margarita on the board by punching one in from a yard out. But the highlight on that first drive for Santa Margarita was Kyle Sweet, the sophomore quarterback, taking a 22-yard scramble on a 3rd and 6 play that got them down to the 1, setting up that Wolpen touchdown. Santa Margarita adds a field goal there in the early innings of the second quarter. With 10 minutes left in the second quarter, 14 minutes into the game, El Toro had only had the ball for a minute and a half at that point. So Santa Margarita's ground game just pounding. And then again, after El Toro misses an opportunity, Santa Margarita drives down. They go for it for 4th and goal on their own 2. They try a little play-action halfback option pass that goes incomplete. And then Connor Manning just showed, what he's capable of, leading his team 98 yards on 9 plays with a great touchdown right before the half to get it to 10-7. Coming out in the second half, though, Santa Margarita goes on a 7-play drive, kept on a sweep to McNiff, 14-yard touchdown pass for a 17-7 lead. And then in the fourth quarter, El Toro was driving to try to get back in the game. Manning throws a pick at the 5-yard line. But Santa Margarita returns all the way back to the El Toro 47. And then Sweet connects again with River Craycraft this time on a 9-yard TD for a 24-7 lead. Manning responds with a touchdown pass to Dominic Collins. PAT gets blocked. So they're down 24-13. They still have a chance early going to the fourth quarter, but Santa Margarita put an end to that as they respond on a 4-play, 80-yard drive, highlighted by a 68-yard run by Ryan Wolpen, and the touchdown by Duncan Hume make it 31-13, and then Wolpen adds another one for a good measure to make it 38-13. Listen to these stats, though, Jeff. Santa Margarita racked up 521 yards of total offense, 317 on the ground. The key number here, though, for Coach Harry Wells, he wins his 27th of his last 28 playoff games.
Wow.
He has won.
That says a whole lot about the quality of that team bouncing back. And I was just going to ask you, what are your thoughts on the way the Eagles have responded to the loss of Johnny and now getting to the quarterfinals?
Well, I'll tell you what, the offensive line really asserted itself. You know, granted, they did have about an 80-pound advantage across the board on El Toro. They'll have a little bit of a nasty taste in their mouths coming into next week as they face St. Bonaventure, a little bit of a revenge game there. Of course, that's the game where Johnny Stanton got injured. So if Kyle Sweet can play the way he did tonight, I mean, make no big mistakes. You know, he really managed the game really well. And if Ryan Wolpen can run the way he did tonight, I mean, these guys might be headed back to the big stadium.
Interesting. Thanks a lot, Les. Appreciate it tonight.
All right, Jeff, have a good night.
Yep, that's Les Lukacs reporting on the win tonight. Santa Margarita lives to play another day. 38-13, they beat El Toro. We've got 5 of the 8 games in the Pac-5. We have reports on all 5 of the 8. Next stop, we're going to head to the south, Orange County. Good friend Worm staying up late tonight after watching Mission Viejo. They didn't get the top seed. They're number 2, but didn't have many problems with Westlake from what I hear. Give us a little bit of a report, Worm.
Westlake comes in tonight, Jeff, the number 4 seed out of the Marmonte League, and South Coast League champs Mission Viejo, the number 2 seeds, really took care of business tonight at home. And, you know, on paper, this one had kind of a championship caliber matchup, given the pedigree of these two teams. I mean, Westlake was in the CIF finals last year, defending champs. But turnovers was the key tonight. The visiting Warriors came out kind of fast and strong and got an early 3-0 lead in the first quarter, and they held Mission Viejo on their first offensive possession, and they were down there in the red zone again, and it looked like they were going to maybe punch it in from the 13-yard line, but then a fumble recovered by Mission Viejo, and that was really the huge momentum swing in the football game, even though it was early. Mission Viejo capitalized on that turnover. They got a 3-yard touchdown run by Garrett Marino, and they went up 7-3, and then the turnover bug really hit Westlake hard. Hunter Remington picked off Neil Uscali, the quarterback from Westlake, and he returned it 87 yards for a score. That put him up 14-3. Then the two-way stud, Max Redfield, he got in on the interception act. He returned 179 yards to extend the Mission Viejo lead 21-3. The common storyline here is they've been deep in the red zone, looking like they're going to score, and they get picked off, and Mission Viejo took it back down to the house. Hunter Remington got into the end zone again. Third pick 6 of the evening, the trifecta, his second of the game, and Mission Viejo went up 28-3 at halftime. Westlake came out in the second half with a little more energy. They got on the board in the third quarter. They cut the lead to 28-10, but that would end the scoring for them. The Diablo defense was just too good tonight, too tough. They picked off Uscali 4 times. They scored 35 points off 5 turnovers, and that really was the story of this game. Alex Suchek, the Mission Viejo running back, he sealed the deal late in the fourth quarter with a 3-yard touchdown run. That was his 24th touchdown of the season, so kudos to him. And Mission Viejo cruises to a 42-10 victory over Westlake. They stay perfect. They improve to 11-0. And next up, they'll take on Long Beach Poly in the second round of the PAC-5 Division playoffs.
Great job as always, Worm. Got to bop it over now to Sean. So have a good night. We'll talk to you next week.
Cheers.
Yep. That is Worm. And again, Mission Viejo, 42-10 winners over Westlake. You heard him say that they will take on Long Beach Poly next week in the quarterfinals. Long Beach Poly gets by Bishop Amat by a score of 40-25. Gerard Wicks, 233 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns, just 17 carries to get to that point. You heard me say that Sean Siglinski is our next PAC-5 reporter. He was at the Alemany Moorpark game. Alemany advances on to take on Mater Dei. Mater Dei 71-10 winners over Lakewood tonight. Time to bring in Sean to get us a game report on how the Warriors did tonight. How you doing tonight, Sean?
A little song for you, Jeff. Reunited and it feels so good.
Wow, this is the voice all of a sudden.
After 2 weeks, it's nice to be back on the air and talking about high school football. We had a good game out there. For the most part, if you're an Alemany fan tonight out in the San Fernando Valley, Stephen Mitchell, USC commit, senior wide receiver, Bill is one of the top players in Southern California and lived up to the hype tonight. He gained 300 all-purpose yards, scored on an electrifying 81-yard touchdown reception in the third quarter, and really kind of broke the game open there tonight. Jeff Mitchell, he had a couple opportunities to make a couple big plays earlier in the game. Broke free on a 70-yard reception as well as a 50-yard reception. Actually got tackled from behind on both plays, and I talked to him afterwards. I said, hey, you're one of the top prospects around. How do you get caught from behind? And he had mentioned the fact that the Moorpark players took a good angle on him and dragged him down, but on this 80-yard run, he catches the ball over the middle, cuts back a la Reggie Bush, sees daylight and green in front of him, and he's not getting tackled. And Alemany goes out and prevails as most expected them to do, 42-14.
Hey, just so you know, CeeLo called us here and said, stick to the job of sports reporting. You didn't pass your tryout for next year's voice.
I don't think Peaches and Herb, I did them much justice, but I gave it my best try.
Oh, man. Well, go get yourself ready for another song. We'll talk to you a little bit later in the show to get your thoughts on the look ahead.
Sounds good, Jeff.
All righty. That is Sean Siglinski. Tonight, Alemany advances on in the PAC-5 first-round win over Moorpark by a score of 42-14. Let's go through the scores here as we get ready to bring in Eric Sondheimer from the LA Times. He was at the Notre Dame Oaks Christian game, and that was a dandy, and Trish Hoffman tells me that Eric's already on the line, ready to go. This one came down to the end. It was a dandy. Give us a little recap of how Notre Dame advances with a 1-point win, Eric, 28-27.
Matched opponents, and luckily I picked the closest game in the Pac-5 tonight.
You're a genius.
And it ended up coming down to a missed extra point with 1:19 left. Oaks Christian did a great job on 4th and 5. Brandon Dawkins threw a 32-yard touchdown pass to Chris Davis, and we all thought it was going to be going into overtime, but the extra point was no good, and that was the game. And unfortunately for Oaks Christian, it was a tough way to end the season. They had made it to 9 straight championship games. They had never lost in the first round in their school history, and it was a difficult ending for them. But I thought that Notre Dame got its offense going in the second half after they were shut out. Kelly Helinski did something I'd never seen him do before. He actually ran the ball well. They ran some option plays, did a good job passing the ball, and just two good teams. And now Notre Dame gets a shot at St. John Bosco. I think Bosco deserves the favorites role, but if Notre Dame can cut down on the mistakes and stay balanced on offense, they'll have a shot.
Talking with Eric Sondheimer tonight from the LA Times, staying up doing some late duty for us. We appreciate that. I know one of the things you wrote earlier this week was about all the youth in the Pac-5 at the quarterback position. As you take a look through the night, anything stick out in the Pac-5? And then I'll ask you a little about the city section. Yeah,
in Mater Dei, they decided to start their junior quarterback, Chase Forrest, over the senior Ryan McMahon, and he came up in a big way. He had 5 touchdown passes, I believe, in the first half, and that's an interesting decision, but one that I understand. They have some young players, and it's a good way to get them started against a team that they were going to beat. And he's been getting better every week, Chase Forrest has, and he can run the ball a little bit. And Mater Dei is a dangerous team. It's going to be a great matchup, Mater Dei and Alemany, next week. And I tell you what, all 4 matchups in the quarterfinals of the Pac-5, I wish I could go to every one of them. They're going to be that good. But that's why it's called the PAC-5.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a lot of fun. Before we let you go here, I enjoyed reading your little snippet you put up there on the Times about the Division II game in the city section between Southgate and Verdugo Hills. Clue the people in on that one, because that's a big upset of a number 4 seed.
Yeah, it's one of the few upsets tonight. The city section pretty much went as expected in Division I, but Division II, there were really some good games. And Southgate has an outstanding first-year coach, Jose Casagrande. He did a great job when he was at Roosevelt. He gave it up. He decided to come back. They have an outstanding principal at Southgate who actually cares about athletics. Can you believe it? A principal who cares about athletics and understands that you can actually improve your school by having a good athletic program. So he's lured this guy away, and they beat Verdugo Hills 55-35. They have a very good quarterback in Eddie Flores. He was out a couple games earlier this year with a broken wrist. He's back, and the Southgate comes out of a very strong Eastern League. So now they get to move on. The Division II, really, there's no outstanding teams as far as they're not going to beat a Division I team, but it's a really competitive division. They're all pretty equal, and that should make it a fun division.
Eric, thank you as always. Now you got to go figure out how to clone yourself 3 more times, and you can watch all the quarterfinal games of the Pac-5.
I know. I got to pick the game that I'm going to go see. I have to figure out what is going to be the best game. That's going to be the hard selection.
Yeah, we've all got that problem. Eric, thank you. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye-bye.
Yep, that's Eric Sondheimer of the LA Times, always doing a great job. We've got a lot more reports. We're going to just keep rolling through this. As I said at the top here on High School Football America SoCal, we are going to have reports from 5 of the 8 games tonight, and game number 5 is Trent Schloem. He was at Mater Dei in Lakewood. You heard him. You heard Eric just talk about that a few minutes ago. Mater Dei, no problem, 71-10. But let's start right at the top here with a little bit of a recap, and then go into the quarterback situation with Trent. How you doing tonight, Trent?
Hey, Jeff, an absolute beatdown in this game. Mater Dei going on to defeat Lakewood 71-10. And this was a wild game right from the start. You knew Mater Dei was going to get things going when a play-action bomb Chase Forrest hit Thomas Duarte first play from scrimmage. That gave Mater Dei the lead. Actually, Lakewood would score 10 points after that and would have the lead halfway through the game. At that point, no chance. 64 unanswered points. Yes, 64 unanswered for Mater Dei. They would score on 10 consecutive possessions. Didn't punt all night long. Really, Chase Forrest picking apart the Lakewood secondary. This really, Chase Forrest tonight, looking at his line, 12 of 14, 167 yards, had 4 touchdowns through the air, and then also ran for a touchdown tonight. He was very impressive.
How shocked were you at the change at quarterback?
Well, not completely shocked. I know Ryan McMahon had some struggles early this year. I mean, he's still a very good quarterback. This was the first time I've gotten to see Chase Forrest, so it was tonight. And these 2 quarterbacks had been switching time, but it's always different when you are going to name who the starting quarterback is going to be, and it's different when you're the starter as opposed to filling in a backup role. Mm-hmm. But the way Chase Forrest played tonight, and he found out that he was going to get the start earlier this week, but when the way he played tonight, there is no way he won't be the starter next week unless something really strange were to happen in practice, but I don't foresee that. Forrest, very, very good player. He looked great tonight, and what he did so well was rushing out of the pocket. I know Lakewood has a very physical front four. Their defensive line is tough. He went right through them. The only thing that's a little risky, he took some hits tonight. He's a guy that has to learn. Sometimes you have to just step out of bounds, slide, and play it safe as a quarterback. But, he's a tough kid, a junior that's only getting better. I like what Chase Forrest brings. But Thomas Duarte, 4 touchdowns in his own right tonight. This is a very impressive victory for the Monarchs.
Trent, as always, great job. Go get some sleep.
Sounds good. Take care, Jeff.
All right, Trent Schloem. Let's go through the Pac-5 scores here on High School Football America SoCal tonight. We're going till 12:30, so we got a lot to get to here. So the big league out here, the big division, the Pac-5, first-round games, top-seeded St. Bonaventure. They advance 39-7 with a win over Long Beach Camarillo. Now, that sets up a matchup in the quarterfinals with Santa Margarita. Santa Margarita beats El Toro tonight 38-13. And as you heard Les Lukacs say, big game there because, of course, back on September 21st, when Johnny Stanton went down with a knee injury, before he went down, he led the Eagles to that 35-27 win over St. Bonaventure. Bonaventure's only loss of the season, so looking forward to that one. In the other first-round matchups, Alemany gets by Moorpark 42-14. They will take on fourth-seeded Notre Dame next week. Notre Dame gets by Lakewood handily 71-10. It was Mission Viejo, the second seed, 42-10 winners over Westlake tonight. They will take on Long Beach Poly. Long Beach Poly wins tonight over Bishop Amat 40-25. And as you just heard from Eric Sondheimer, Notre Dame squeaks by Oaks Christian on a missed extra point, 28-27. They will take on St. John Bosco, 7-4, but they're perfect on the field. Those 4 losses come by way of forfeit. St. John Bosco beats Toro tonight by a score of 38-17. Inland Division, the scores there, really no surprises at all. Top-seeded Vista Murrieta, easy win over South Hills, 34-6. They will get Norco in the next round. Norco beat Redlands East Valley, 50-22 tonight. Rancho Cucamonga will face fourth-seeded Charter Oak in the second round. Rancho Cucamonga gets by Santiago out of Corona, 33-17. Charter Oak over Chaparral, 24-14. David Lassen from the Press Enterprise will have a report on that one, and we'll also talk a little bit Inland Division with him. Also tonight, Corona Centennial, the number 2 seed in the Inland Division, 47-21 winners over Los Osos. They will take on Murrieta Valley. Murrieta Valley gets by Eisenhower 35-27. And in the other 2 games in the Inland Division, it was Redlands getting by Chino Hills 55-27. Third-seeded Upland, they remain undefeated with a 35-6 win tonight. And before we get to David Lassen, let's take a look at the Western Division first-round games tonight. Lompoc gets by St. Francis 42-7. No problems there. Lompoc, the top seed, and they continue with the long win streak. Maybe a little bit of a surprise. We'll ask Ed Gonzalez of the LA Sports Journal about this one. Culver City defeats Dos Pueblos by a score of 34-20. Santa Monica shuts out Templeton 44-0. We're reading through the first-round scores in the Western Division playoffs tonight. The number 4 seed, Sarah, no problems, 225 yards rushing on the ground over Oxnard, 49-14. Number 2 seed, Chaminade, a big game again for Terrell Newby. Actually, tonight, Chaminade had 5 plays of more than 50 yards for scores. They defeat Pacifica 64-11. They will take on Morro Bay, 17-14 winners over Inglewood next week. And Cathedral will take on Camarillo in the quarterfinals. Cathedral beats Santa Barbara tonight, 28-23. Camarillo, the number 3 seed, and we'll have a report from Jack Pollan from the LA Daily News coming up on this one. Camarillo wins that one by a score of 48-21. But time to turn it back just a little bit, go to the Inland Division, and we have David Lassen from the Press Enterprise on the line right now to talk about his game that he covered as Charter Oak, the 4th seed, advances into the quarterfinals with a 24-14 win. Let us know a little bit about it, David. How you doing tonight?
Good, Jeff. How you doing?
It's a late one.
Yeah, I noticed. That's okay. It's playoff time. Things tend to run a little later.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I guess it is my first look at Charter Oak, the number 4 seed, and they proved to be very much in character tonight. They have a running back named Aaron Vaughns, who came in averaging 153 yards a game. Tonight he had 154 to go with 3 touchdowns. It's a team that came in averaging about 200 yards a game. They passed for 230. And they're a team that have not yet given up more than 14 points a game, and they gave up 14 again tonight. So I'd say it was a very representative evening for Charter Oak. I liked what I saw from them, good balance. And all that said, though, Chaparral played them very tough for quite a while. I mean, Chaparral's defense has been excellent all year long. They've struggled a little bit lately on offense, and that was the case again for a while tonight. Took them till late in the third quarter to get on the board, ending a string of more than 6 quarters without a point. By then they were down 17-0 and just couldn't get out of that hole.
Talking with David Lassen tonight of the Press Enterprise. Before we let you go here, let's get kind of your expertise. You've seen a lot of Vista Murrieta, a lot of people licking their chops for a couple of matchups coming up down the road here. Kind of handicap the Inland after the first round for us. What are you thinking?
Well, I mean, I think, as you said a couple minutes ago, it pretty much went according to form. I think maybe Norco Rev was a little bit of a surprise tonight, and that Norco was the number 3 seed, although they've been playing very well lately. Other than that, I don't think there's anything that would be real eye-opening. Probably the biggest news I see tonight is that, Vista Murrieta's score was maybe not what people expected, but then Sua Craven's didn't play in that one, apparently with a shoulder injury. So, not terribly surprised that that game would be a little closer without Sua in it. Coley Candell had told me this week that early in the week that Vista was a little banged up, so I think he probably erred on the side of caution in terms of holding some people out, thinking that they would be fine without them for this game, which proved to be the case.
If all top four of the seeds, hold true to form and get to that semifinals, wow. What are you thinking there? Can anybody break through and get at Murrieta, Vista Murrieta?
I think, definitely, I think we all believe we're on track for the third straight year of Vista Murrieta and Corona Centennial in the final. Having seen Charter Oak tonight, I think it'll be an entertaining game when they play Vista Murrieta, but I don't think they quite have the firepower to stay with Vista Murrieta. And I think, the other semifinal, if things hold between Centennial and Upland, will also be a really good game. That one could be a little closer. I haven't seen Upland yet. That's kind of one of the big guns in the division I haven't gotten a look at. But I know that a lot of people say good things about them, and I think I'll be surprised if the seeds don't hold into the semifinals.
David, I appreciate you hanging in there with us tonight. Thanks. Great job as always.
All right. Take care, Jeff.
Yep. That is David
Bye-bye.
Lassen of the Press Enterprise. Going to keep moving through things here on High School Football America SoCal on AM 570, Fox Sports LA. Don't forget to go to the website, highschoolfootballamerica.com. We will have all the scores posted there for you later on tonight. We'll also get to them as we get to the bottom of the hour here, but we've still got some more reports coming up. Jack Pollan in just a couple of seconds to talk about the Camarillo Harvard-Westlake game. And also Ed Gonzalez, and we've still got Dan Albano from the OC Register. We got the whole list going up here, and as you heard us say just a few minutes ago before we got Dave Lassen on the phone, Camarillo in the Western Division, the number 3 seed gets by Harvard-Westlake 48-21, and Jack Pollan from the Daily News is here to wrap it up for us. How you doing tonight, Jack?
Hey, Jeff, doing well. How are you guys?
Oh, we're getting through it, man, trying to push our way through. Tell us a little bit about this one.
This was a game I thought was going to be a little more competitive, and it wasn't. Camarillo jumped all over Harvard-Westlake, a touchdown on the first drive of the game, 11 plays, 80 yards. Travis Valdez threw a touchdown pass, 20-yard touchdown pass, and on the ensuing kickoff, the Harvard-Westlake's Garrett Robinson mishandled the kickoff. Camarillo recovered and scored 2 plays later on a Valdez 5-yard touchdown run. It was 14-0, right off the bat, 3-4 minutes into the game, kind of set the tone for the evening. Harvard-Westlake tried. Real good quarterback Chad Knopf, 19 of 31 for 309 yards and 3 touchdowns. But 2 of them were late, one in the third quarter after it was 48-7, and another one late in the fourth quarter. They just had no running game, and the Harvard-Westlake defense had more holes than Swiss cheese.
Well said. So you've looked at a lot of these teams up in the division there. No real surprises tonight, although maybe Culver City beating Dos Pueblos. Give us a little bit of a thumbnail sketch. Chaminade number 2, Lompoc number 1. Where does Camarillo stack up in that bunch, and where's Sarah at the number 4 seed?
Yeah, Camarillo's a nice little team. They got a good balance with the quarterback Valdez and a running back Ray Thomas, who had 162 yards on 28 carries and 4 touchdowns tonight. But I don't know if Camarillo has enough firepower to match up with a Chaminade or the athleticism of Sarah. I would think Chaminade's going to get to the final and probably going to play Lompoc or Sarah in the final. I think Camarillo could beat Cathedral next week, but they would have a hard time with Chaminade in the next round. So the Chaminade, Lompoc, Sarah, I think they're going to control the division.
All right, Jack, appreciate it. Thanks for hanging with us tonight and staying up late. You got a little extra something in your paycheck this week.
Hey, you got it, Jeff. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot. Jack Pollan from the Daily News. Check out his story in the Daily News tomorrow. Got a lot more coming here. We're going to get to the scores as we go through. We're trying to get to all of them tonight. 145 playoff games. 3 number 1 seeds. We mentioned this at the top. Went down. Ontario Christian loses in the East Valley. Palmdale loses in the Northern. And Summit loses in the Central. We also lost 1 number 3 seed in LaSalle, losing to Compton Centennial, and 2 number 4 seeds, Verdugo Hills, in the City Section Division 2, and number 4, St. Joseph's, all going down. In just a few minutes, we're going to bring in Ed Gonzalez, who was at one of the city games between Palisades and Dorsey. Let's take a look at 3 more of the divisions right now. Let's go into the Central Division. We mentioned it. Number 1, Summit. They fall to Paloma Valley 8-3. So that's one of 3 number 1 seeds to go down tonight. In the second round, Paloma Valley will get Colony. Colony wins tonight 27-14 over La Quinta. Elsinore, 55-7 winners over Colton. Elsinore will get 4th-seeded Rancho Verde, 56-0 shutout of Chaffee tonight. The number 2-seeded Heritage, they get the win tonight over Palm Desert, 42-28. They will face Arlington in the quarterfinals. Arlington beat Chino tonight, 29-7. And in the other 2 matchups in the Central Division, Temescal Canyon, 21-3 win over Palm Springs. Temescal Canyon will take on Kaiser, the number 3 seed. Kaiser wins tonight over Riverside North by a score of 14-7. Moving to the Eastern Division, really no surprises here. Top-seeded Citrus Hill, no problem shutting out Silverado 49-0. They will face Rialto in the quarterfinals. 37-28, the winner, Rialto over Norte Vista. Tuckwitz gets by San Gorgonio by a score of 40-14. 4th-seeded Oak Hills gets the win over Barstow tonight, 49-14. 2nd-seeded Carter, 35-13 winners over La Sierra. It was Ridgecrest, 17-8 over San Jacinto, so Carter gets Ridgecrest next week in the quarterfinals. And also in the quarterfinals next week, Beaumont will take on 3rd-seeded Serrano. Beaumont beats Moreno Valley tonight by a score of 7-0, and Serrano beats Arroyo Valley by a score of 39-21. Next report, we got them all lined up here from the LA Sports Journal. Ed Gonzalez checking out Palisades and Dorsey tonight. Thanks for staying up past midnight. You get some extra pay tonight, Ed. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dorsey, no problems. They get a win and a rematch with the arch rival next week in Crenshaw, but it looked like the Dons didn't have many problems from the final 62-22. Tell us how we got there.
You know what happened was Dorsey took advantage of Palisades' turnovers. Palisades fumbled the ball twice deep in their territory in the first quarter, and they jumped out to a 21-0 lead, and they put up 35 straight points before Palisades could even do any damage. Quarterback Reginald Bell had 2 touchdowns. He threw 2 touchdowns and also ran for another one. And Jermel Jefferson ran for 2 touchdowns, including a 45-yarder. You know, the only points that Palisades put up were mostly near halftime in the second quarter, and it was all by Austin Applegate. He had 3 rushing touchdowns, but it wasn't even a close game. Like you said, it was 62-22. And Dorsey is going to face Crenshaw again.
Talking with Ed Gonzalez tonight of the LA Sports Journal. Ed doesn't only go to one game. He keeps his eyes on everything, and I know one of the things you tweeted out was the Culver City win over Dos Pueblos, 34-20 in the Western Division. Pretty much a shock, I would take it, to you.
You know what? Culver City is known for doing this. Last year, they took out top-seeded Sierra, and what they did is they did it with special teams. Julius Wilson ran back a 75-yard punt return, and Stanley Norman had 2 touchdowns. One of them was a 6-yard interception. And, you know, that was the difference when they faced Moorpark undefeated. But like I said before, last year they took out the number 1 seed, and they're going to try to do it again this time, and they get them at home.
All right, Ed. Appreciate it. As always, thanks for hanging in there.
Not a problem.
We'll talk to you next week.
All right, thanks, Jeff.
Yep, that's Ed Gonzalez of the LA Sports Journal, getting us a little up to date. We'll have some city scores coming up here in just a little bit. In just a few seconds, we're going to have Dan Albano from the OC Register, OCVarsity. He was at the game between El Toro and Santa Margarita. Santa Margarita getting the win in that in the PAC-5 to advance on into the quarterfinals and get that rematch with St. Bonaventure. That should be a dandy. But before we get to Dan, let's get you some more scores here from the first round. All of the scoreboards tonight brought to you by Kellogg's Frosted Flakes, reminding you to share what you love with who you love. Let's get to the Mid-Valley Division. We haven't been there yet. Top-seeded Paraclete, no problems. 49-7 winners over Temple City. They will take on El Monte in the quarterfinals. El Monte beats Montebello tonight 44-43 in a high-scoring affair. San Marino, 42-7 winners over Shore tonight. They will get fourth-seeded San Dimas in the quarters. San Dimas shuts out Windward 42-0. Second-seeded Monrovia, a 50-0 shutout of Viewpoint. They will take on South El Monte. South El Monte tonight in the first round downs Covina by a score of 31-24. Arroyo over Bell Gardens 42-14 to advance to the quarterfinals. In the quarters, Arroyo will get third-seeded Sierra Canyon winners tonight over Northview by a score of 20-7. Go to highschoolfootballamerica.com to get your scores and also patronize all of the newspapers and the websites out there. All of these guys come together for us here on High School Football America SoCal on Friday nights, and we truly do appreciate it. Before we get to Dan Albano here, let's do the Northern Division scores tonight. We mentioned 3 number 1 seeds fall. Ontario Christian fell in the East Valley, Summit fell in the Central, and in the Northern Division where we are right now, Palmdale, the top seed, falls to Atascadero by a score of 26-7. Atascadero will get Canyon Country Canyon in the quarterfinals. Tonight, Canyon wins 42-9 over San Luis Obispo. Miracosta, they win 35-21 over Highland. In the quarters, they will get West Torrance. They knock off a seeded team in St. Joseph by a score of 45-20. Paso Robles, they lose to Valencia tonight, the number 2 seed. Valencia wins 43-36 in a high-scoring affair. They will take on Quartz Hill in the quarterfinals. Quartz Hill downs Redondo tonight, 38-21. We're in the Northern Division right now in the CIF Southern Section. Hart gets by Arroyo Grande, 48-6, and number 3 Palos Verdes. They top Antelope Valley 49-13, so next week in the quarters, it's Palos Verdes against Arroyo Grande. As promised, time to slide in Dan Albano from the OC Register's OCVarsity. He was at the what I considered the most interesting game tonight, Santa Margarita and El Toro. Santa Margarita, they advance and set up that big matchup with St. Bonaventure. Welcome to the show, Dan.
Hi, Jeff. How you doing?
We're doing well, and again, I'm thanking everybody for hanging in there and staying up late for us tonight. It seemed like, when Johnny Stanton went down, the Eagles season did not. And tell us a little bit about what impressed you tonight with Harry Welch's troops.
Well, you know what I was trying to convey in my story and what I saw from the Eagles tonight is that they just seem to know the formula on how to play winning football in the PAC-5 Division this time of year because they know how to finish strong. They play a great second half tonight. They score on all 4 of their possessions. They have no turnovers in the game. That means they're running the ball really well. And the thing that really jumped out was the sophomore quarterback, Kyle Sweet, who I think is going to be a big-time player if he sticks with the quarterback position. He's really looking good. He's really progressing. He's running all the plays that Santa Margarita needs him to run. He's got the option. He's running the dive. He was 14 of 21 passing. He also ran for about 65 yards. The defense collected 3 turnovers, 3 sacks, and they have a great offensive line. So they have the formula right now to really give the top seed Bonaventure a real good game next week.
And I want to talk to you about that in a second, but before we get to that question, I would just like your thoughts. Connor Manning comes up a little short. I know you tweeted it out that he came very close to breaking Matt Barkley's county career record. Just kind of final thoughts on his final game as a Charger.
Well, I thought for Connor, he had a rough game the previous in the South Coast Showdown with Mission Viejo. He had a rough game, and I thought he bounced back and played really well tonight. He was 29 of 43, 1 interception, and he threw for 322 yards, 2 touchdowns. So he finishes his career with, unofficially I have him at 9,449 yards, which leaves him about 22 yards shy of Matt Barkley's career record. Connor had about 5 passes dropped tonight. He had a lot of low snaps, but I thought he really competed well, and that's what I think I'll remember. Connor, just like Matt Barkley, he was a gunslinger. He competed all the time, even when things weren't going his way. He always came back. Connor Manning, he throws for his career through 88 touchdowns. A classy, humble kid, a lot like Matt Barkley as well. So I think Utah's getting a great kid, and I think Orange County football was blessed to see Connor Manning, and we're going to miss him.
Class kid, that's all I can say about Connor. had him on the show here, a real good kid. Before we let you go, and we're going to bring in your comrade here, Steve Fryer, in a second, but I just want your thoughts. You touched on it. Bonaventure, Santa Margarita, we know what happened the first time. Eagles getting a win. Johnny Stanton goes down, and Bonaventure now the number 1 seed. What are your thoughts here on Friday night, getting ready for next Friday?
I think Santa Margarita can win this game. It's going to be Santa Margarita's home game, so that's the second time this season that Bonaventure's coming down. I think the emergence of Kyle Sweet really impressed me tonight. They're playing really clean ball, no turnovers. They've got a great offensive line. And Harry Walsh, this time of year, he's just winning a tremendous amount of playoff games. So I think, Santa Margarita is going to be a great game, really close game. But I think Santa Margarita is going to have enough to get through. I think Ryan Wolpen and some of their veterans are still hanging around. They've lost a lot, with the transfers and the injury to Johnny Stanton, but I think they're going to get it done. Yeah,
I think there's something magical there. Dan, thank you so much for hanging in there with us tonight. Thanks for staying up late.
Enjoy it, Jeff. Thanks.
Yep, going to keep it in the family here. Turn it right over into the guy that heads OCVarsity, Steve Fryer, on the line to give us kind of an overall view of what happened in the Pac-5 tonight and some of the other divisions down south. Welcome to the show, Steve.
Hey, you know what I'm looking at is I'm looking at teams that won coin flips and how happy they are to do so. When you look at some of these second-round matchups in the Pac-5 division, there had to be a coin flip to decide who'd be at home for Alemany Mater Dei. Alemany and Mater Dei a long ways apart, and on a Friday night, the traffic's worse in Southern California than any night ever. So
it took us 3 hours to get here tonight. You're kidding me. Is it bad?
Oh, jeepers. Mater Dei, wins that coin flip against Alemany, so they get a home game in the second round. And then another coin flip, two others. Bosco wins the coin flip with Notre Dame and Sherman Oaks. That saves little travel time. And then Poly, Mission Viejo, not a whole lot of travel, but you'd rather, if you're Mission Viejo, you play at that little cozy stadium they've got. That's worth a few points right there.
I agree with you. So you just heard what Dan thought about the matchup, the game that comes back after the September 21st game when Bonaventure loses and Johnny Stanton goes down. What are your thoughts heading into this? I like the Eagles like Dan does. How do you feel about it?
As much as it pains me to agree with Dan Albano ever, I will have to say that Dan brought up a good point because, like you guys are saying, it is a magical thing, and I picked Margarita to beat El Toro because, physically they're a bit tougher team right now than El Toro, which is kind of new to this whole Pac-5 division stuff. I think they'll get there. The column I wrote for tomorrow is about, these last 2 weeks, El Toro lost to Mission Viejo big. Tonight they lose to Santa Margarita big. These are things that you kind of look at, okay, so now we know what we have to do to compete at this level. Okay, now we get it up close and personal. So, but I think Margarita's got going on. That sophomore quarterback, Kyle Sweet, he's doing a lot of Johnny Stanton stuff, which is in the playbook. A lot of passing, a lot of quick, short passes. Let his guys run after the catch like River Craycraft does, and Connor O'Brien does to a lesser extent. And he can run the football pretty good, too, not with the same musculature that Stanton does, but he's pretty good for a sophomore. St. Bonaventure, though, I picked St. Bonaventure to advance into the semis. Now, I'm going to stick with it, but, I wouldn't be shocked if Santa Margarita pulls off some gosh darn rabbit out of the hat thing again.
I agree with you on that. Talking with Steve Fryer from the OCVarsity tonight, OCVarsity.com. You're in a press box, but you're watching everything, so I can't let you go without getting some thoughts maybe on the Southern and the Southwest divisions. Sure. What are you thinking?
You know what? It's the Southwest Division, all Orange County Division, and you're looking at Edison versus Tustin. Everybody thought of that one coming up. Clearly, the two best teams. Valencia, they play Edison. Edison's just so good on defense right now. A couple shutouts in their pocket. Two really good matchups, though, in the middle part of that bracket. La Habra, which just beat Los Al 10-7. Los Al hasn't won a playoff game since 2004. That goes back a little bit. I'm wondering if this is John Barnes' last year of 300-plus victories at Los Al. I'm wondering if that was his swan song there tonight in that 10-7 loss to La Habra. And then Foothill looks really good. Foothill-La Habra, that's a great matchup. I like Foothill in that one. I think they've got a really good, well-diversified offense. And the Villa Park, Newport Harbor, talk about a couple physical football teams. Man, that's like a coin flip game to me, Villa Park, Newport Harbor. And then the other one there, Huntington Beach at home against Tustin. Tustin's just steamrolling, guys.
Well, we appreciate you staying up late. I know you're up late anyway, making sure all those stories get put to bed the proper way. But thank you so much tonight, Steve.
Hey, thank you, Jeff, and good luck and keep it going, guy.
I appreciate it. That's Steve Fryer, OC Register. Go to OCVarsity.com. I got about 10 minutes to go here. We got a lot of scores to get in, but as promised at the top of the show, Trish Hoffman and I had a fun week here, and we're going to talk a little college football. USC, UCLA, not until next week, but these two are doing something kind of special off the field. What do you have for us, Trish?
That's right. They're actually have created a fundraiser, and this fundraiser kicks off with a documentary about two of college football's biggest intra-city rivalries, just as Jeff just said, UCLA and USC. The documentary, called A City Divided, showcases the game that has been played 81 times. Yes, 81 times. The film premieres Monday night at Club Nokia at LA Live. Now, the film is the centerpiece of a fundraiser called Rivals United for a Cure, and they're raising money for research for lesser-known cancers. The rivals on the field are coming together off the field, being led by former quarterbacks Paul McDonald of USC and Matt Stevens of UCLA, who will co-host the movie's red carpet premiere.
The theme of the film is really, and the beauty of this rivalry is the proximity of the two schools, right? Mm-hmm. It's the greatest intra-city rivalry in the country. And, we think it's the greatest rivalry because of that proximity. You've got all these players that played against one another, and the fans, right, that are on either side of the stadium that went to high school together, that are friends and know each other, they're in the community together and all this stuff. So that's really the theme that was brought out in this film, and how that rivalry affects marriages, families, businesses, and so forth.
Well, and for those of you who don't know, and I'm sure all of you do, Paul McDonald is one of USC's radio announcers. His co-chair, Matt Stevens, who is also a high school football quarterbacks coach at Helix High School just outside of San Diego, says as a cancer survivor, this cause is very personal.
I had testicular cancer in 1993. And for those that don't know, it's just testicular cancer. If you go way back in the 1970s, the movie Brian Song, which featured the running back from the Chicago Bears, Brian Piccolo, who played with Gil Sayers. The story went on where Brian Piccolo was sick, and he actually had testicular cancer, and at that time, there was no cure. And Brian Piccolo passed away. So his family and all his friends decided to put together a foundation and raise money for underfunded cancer research. And because they raised so much money and there was research, today testicular cancer is 95% curable.
Which is such great news. Now, this fundraiser is not without competition. Matt and Paul have a side bet to raise more money, and whoever raises the most money, the loser, will have to wear their rival school colors on game day.
No.
Yeah.
No one's going to like that one.
Paul was very quick to point out he has a sizable lead on Matt. I don't know, Matt. You're going to have to weigh in on that. And the overall goal is for each school to raise $1 million for the charity. Again, A City Divided premieres Monday at Club Nokia at LA Live on Monday night, November 12th at 6 p.m. So for tickets and more, go to Rivals United for a Cure, spelled Kure.org. And for a direct link, you can always go to highschoolfootballamerica.com and click on my column, Sideline Hits. The game is next Saturday, November 17th at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. Game time starts at 1. And Jeff, by the way, USC leads the all-time series with 45 wins to 28 for UCLA. There have been 7 ties, and USC brings a 5-game win streak against UCLA into the game.
That's right. And Matt Stevens, of course, the voice of UCLA. So both Paul and Matt, and, of course, UCLA here on AM 570, Fox Sports LA. Great job, and we'll do a little bit more on this next week in the show. So great job of keeping everybody.
Okay, I guess you want me to go back to the phones.
Yeah, you got to go get somebody on the line there. You got to get Sean Siglinski for his final point. Let's go through some quick scores here. Let's go to the City Section, Division I. Narbonne, the number 2 team in the High School Football America, SoCal, top 25. They win tonight. They advance into the quarterfinals with a 57-14 win over Locke. They will take on Garfield. Garfield 36-24 winners tonight over Taft. Birmingham gets by Gardena 34-22. They will meet Carson in the quarters. Carson wins tonight over Roosevelt by a score of 15-7. Venice 56-14 winners over Sylmar will take on San Pedro in the quarters. San Pedro 35-10 win tonight over Fairfax. You heard this earlier from Ed Gonzalez. Dorsey gets by Palisades quite easily, 62-22. And they will face the arch rival one more time in the quarterfinals. Crenshaw defeats Arletta tonight by a score of 38-27. Division 2 in the city section, Southeast, the top seed, advances with a 38-21 win. They will take on Lincoln. Lincoln beats Bell tonight 20-7. San Fernando, 32-15 win over Cleveland. They will take on Southgate, the upset over the 4th seed Verdugo Hills tonight, 55-35 after being down 21-0. And then Van Nuys will face Canoga Park in the quarterfinals. Canoga Park beats University 34-7. Van Nuys 19-14 winners over North Hollywood. And Jefferson Downsview Park by a score of 26-19 to face Eagle Rock in the quarters next week in Division 2 in the city section. Eagle Rock wins tonight by a score of 32-26. Tonight's High School Football America scoreboards brought to you by Kellogg's Frosted Flakes. Getting close to the end of the game, but we want to bring in Sean Siglinski one more time and get his thoughts. And let's go right to the Pac-5. We've got some dandy matchups next week, including number 1, St. Bonaventure taking on Santa Margarita in a rematch. What are you thinking about this one?
We had talked a little bit about the Pac-5 Division playoffs earlier this season, Jeff, and I think St. Bonaventure is still in position to run the table, make it to the finals, and meet a St. John Bosco. I really see that matchup materializing. St. Bonnie's going to have a couple tough tests along the way, but I think the Saints are prepared for what's in store.
What else kind of caught your eye tonight that sets up an interesting quarterfinal matchup? Have you had a chance to go through the brackets yet?
Yeah, I was taking a couple looks at the games in the Inland Empire to touch on those real quick, and then maybe we can hit the Western Division. And the Inland Empire, or the Inland Division next week, the teams from the Inland Empire. There's a real interesting matchup in Upland versus Redlands. Upland's got a real special player on the defensive side of the ball, Joe Mathis, who's being recruited by a number of different schools. He's going up against Redlands' dynamic running back, Craig Lee, who's heading to UCLA. So I think that there's going to be an individual matchup there that's worth taking a look at. I think Upland prevails and then possibly sets up a showdown with Centennial. And then beyond that, I think Vista Murat is the team to beat in that Inland Division.
See how good you are. You sang earlier. Can you do it in 20 seconds? Tell me about the Western Division.
Western, one real quick matchup I like next week is Sarah versus Santa Monica. You have a kid in Addery Jackson, defensive back, one of the top juniors around. He'll be locked up in a one-on-one matchup with Sebastian LaRue, senior receiver going to USC. I don't know that Santa Monica has enough firepower to beat Sarah. I think Sarah's going to stay in contention in that Western Division, possibly meet a Lompoc or, perhaps a Chaminade down the road. But in terms of individual matchups, you have a couple in the Inland Division and the Western next week to keep an eye on.
All right, my man. Thank you so much. Go get some sleep. You did a great job tonight.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Sean Siglinski, wrapping things up. We are coming down the stretch about 90 seconds. I want to thank Kellogg's Frosted Flakes making this show possible each and every week. We will be back next Friday with a full 2-hour complement of the show starting at 10 o'clock. We got the late start tonight because of UCLA basketball. Kellogg's Frosted Flakes appreciates you for tuning in each and every Friday so we can share these great high school football stories with you. And want to remind you that, like football, Frosted Flakes is another passion you can share with your kids. Dads, if you're reliving any of tonight's games around the breakfast table this morning, since we're after midnight, why not do it over a bowl of Frosted Flakes? Quickly, Trish, any thoughts on tonight's frenzy?
Yeah, you absolutely packed a 2-hour show into 60 minutes. Good for you. Bravo. Thank you, Josh. Thank you so much, Sam.
Yep. Josh Gurecki got all the scores, Sam. Zia, sorry, I'm losing my voice here. It's been the cold all week long. I didn't mean to sniff in everybody's ears.
And Sam is a good friend of the Aylesworths, so hey.
Oh, he is. Didn't know that. Well, that's good.
Went to school with Stevie.
Well, that's great to know. Westlake, unfortunately, you lost tonight. Sorry about that, Sam. But anyway, tune in next week to High School Football America SoCal here on AM 570 Fox Sports LA. Again, we'll be back at 10 o'clock. For all the scores, go to highschoolfootballamerica.com. We will be posting them throughout the night so you can see all the winners and losers. We thank everybody that took part, getting us all the reports hanging in there. And we want to thank all of the newspapers that help us get all the information so we can get you the news. We want to thank the listeners for tuning in tonight. Thanks for hanging with us. We'll talk to you next week. Again, this is High School Football America SoCal. I'm Jeff Fisher, and you're listening to AM 570 Fox Sports LA.
Some good line play.